Alternative rock band Collective Soul took the music world by storm in the mid-90s with hits like Shine, Gel, and December. The band is preparing to launch the Rock and Roll Express Tour with Soul Asylum and Three Doors Down right now. I am chatting via Skype with drummer Johnny Rabb. Good morning.
What's up, Jason? How you doing? Good morning.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
What's your day been like so far?
Oh, the day has been coffee in hand and quite honestly working on trying to get some of the last touches on the drum set that's going to be joining us on tour ready. Some new parts, different things like that. We've been touring hard for the last 3 years, so, kind of updating some gear for the road.
Very nice. So you've been with Collective Soul since 2012, correct?
That's exactly right. Yep.
How'd that come to be? How'd you get involved with them?
I got involved with them by a very happen chance, which I'm obviously excited and thrilled about. But a good friend of ours, a mutual friend named Jen Lowe, is a percussionist. She's played with Jason Mraz, a whole bunch of other people. I mean, tonic in the sense of doing percussion. And so she's a world-renowned percussionist. She introduced me and Will Turpin at her birthday party. And ironically, both Will and I we almost didn't go to that party. We were pretty tired. We were at a NAMM show, the music convention for retailers to buy their merchandise from stores. Very large trade show if you're not familiar with it. But we met, started talking, didn't really realize what each other did. And then I'm like, oh, I definitely know who you are. And of course the band, fan of the band, and knew their past drummers. And they were looking for a drummer. And usually that's not how those type of things take place. But I will tell you, the right place, right time for that one worked out, and we ended up chatting and then ended up jamming after a phone call from Ed and at his home studio, and literally just felt like that happened. And then the next thing was the tour, and there really wasn't a bunch of prep. It was like, let's just get ready and get on this 2012 Dosage tour. Since then, this is the beginning of the 7th year, and that's the very abridged version, but that's pretty much what happened. And as I said, couldn't be happier working with the guys the past 7 years.
What types of bands did you play with previously?
I did a bunch of, drumming for different folks. I got out of college and moved to Nashville about a year after in 1996 and immediately started doing country touring. Started off with Shadazy, which was kind of like the Disney label produced band. And we had Tanya Tucker for on and off for 5 to 6 years. Big fan of her still, so it was like the country legend type stuff. Great fun show. Everywhere from that to funk to even Maynard Ferguson. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but the world-class trumpet player and band leader for his Maynard Ferguson big band. So, I mean, just really try to stay well-rounded, and that was obviously a challenging gig. There's a lot of really crazy chart reading, but my background is kind of in everything drumming and music, so it was good to get out there and be versatile. And so the Nashville experience for me was that and some studio work. And at the time, I also had a drumstick manufacturing company, which still exists today, but that was a lot of my focus at the time was the stick company. We had a bunch of artists that you would know as far as drummers playing the sticks. So that was a huge focus. And I will say I'm thankful, though, that in that experience, there was a shift, and I got to get back to focusing on my own drumming. So I kind of have the best of both worlds now, but my background is with just a bunch of artists from, anything from pop, and one of my side things I do is play drum and bass, house, and electronic music with my electronic duo Biodiesel, which is Clay Parnell, Philadelphia. So it's a really well-rounded thing, in my opinion, without sounding like arrogant about it. I just love music, and obviously now my focus is Collective Soul, and it has been for the past years, and such a blast to work with these guys. And I grew up in the 80s, and I love songs, like singer-songwriter songs and pop rock. So this has just been the perfect fit for me.
I read that you once held the title of world's fastest drummer and the first drummer to officially break 1,000 strokes a minute.
Yes.
How did you get involved in that type of competition?
Well, it'll make sense in a second, but when I moved to Nashville, I was only about 24, 25 years old. So when you're that age, you're kind of starting in the music business, you're trying to like really, kind of get seen or get noticed. And Nashville, obviously, even as of today, it's totally crowded and oversaturated with musicians and trying to get work. But I met a guy named Boo McAfee that owned the Nashville Percussion Institute. So like anyone, you move to a new city, you're trying to go, see if you can get students to teach. Well, he had this drum school, and I was going to go in there and get see if I can get students, because and I'm not ashamed of this. Even me and the band, we make a little bit of jokes about this, but like I had my amazing tenure at Red Lobster, at waiting tables and bartending, and jobs are jobs. I think it's very important and very respectable to have a job so you don't fall short on your rent as you're trying to get moving in any business, correct? So I was doing waiting tables and also trying to get drum work, a tour or something like that. So I met Boo at his drum school. He didn't really have any students, because obviously he was also trying to do what he could as a teacher, but he put a drum festival on during the Percussive Art Society show, which is also another, drummer trade show. And he had Simon Phillips, who's obviously played with everybody from Toto to, what am I trying to think here? I don't want to mess that up. Tons of people. It's just slipping my mind. Simon Phillips, world-class drummer. Pete Townsend is what I was trying to say. Many years, and worked with The Who and different things. So Simon was doing a drum clinic, and that word drum clinic obviously means like basically a drum class or a drum solo thing where other drummers that are interested or fit people to watch that and learn something about it. And Simon's amazing, and Boo let me open up for Simon. And that was kind of that starting point of my clinic career, which I did for at least 10 to 15 years. And during that time, in a nutshell, Boo had invented a machine called the drumometer. He had one prototype. It literally was a small box with digital numbers on it. You imagine just the black digital numbers on the screen. One thing was for seconds, and one thing was for the number of strokes that you're hitting. And the way it read was, as soon as the drum pad was hit, it was connected to a trigger. So as soon as that was hit, the countdown began from 60 seconds. So I was there with my dad, and I did it. I saw it, and I didn't really ask permission. I did it, and I got like 898 or something like that. And he saw the machine sitting there, the drumometer, and he's like, "Who did this 890 or 898?" And I said, "I did." He goes, "No way." I said, "Yeah, I just did it. I was just kind of messing around. Do it again." And I did it. It was a similar 900 or so. So then for the next, he got very intrigued, because and these were single strokes, which means right, left, individual strokes, or left, right. So not bouncing or double, which could be a little simpler to go quicker. So the single stroke has kind of been the drummer's, it's one hit per hand. So you're really having to use technique or whatever to get the speed. And it was for fun for me, always for fun. And then finally, over the next couple of weeks or a month, we trained kind of Rocky-esque, if you will, to try to beat 1,000. And we did. We got 1,026. We sent it into Guinness, and they agreed to come out to Guinness World Attractions, which is obviously one of those kind of, when you see the Ripley's, believe it or not, museum / Guinness, you see them in the little, not strip malls, but kind of Orlando. They've got them in Japan. Yeah. They've got them whatever. Right. So
I've been to a couple of those.
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to get their attention, and then we got VH1's attention, and they came down with the Rock and Roll Record Breakers. They happened to have a show that was going. So they filmed it, and it was really, I'd say, stressful, because when you do it a couple times, you get worn out. So I was doing it like 5, 6, 7 minutes. And then finally, luckily, because they're filming it, I did break my old record, 1,026. I got 1,071. And that was, it was exciting. And I'll just say this, it's like one of those things as a kid, you're like, it's so cool that, how many jump ropes in a minute, or it's a world record. I always thought of it as fun, and I got a lot of cool opportunities out of that. Like there was an MTV spot, there was all sorts of cool TV spots, local news. Weirdly enough, those attraction places, the exhibits, some of them are still in there with my headshot, the sticks I used, and the pad. That's been interesting. There's one in Japan when I visited there, and it's in there. So kind of a fun little, literally that word fun. I did it for fun, and it got pretty competitive after that. And I'm still friends with Boo, very much so. He's a great close friend of mine. But now Mike Mangini, who's another good friend of mine, has the record, and he's in Dream Theater now. He replaced Mike Portnoy in Dream Theater. Mike's just a monster drummer. So he replaced it. I was quite happy he did, because it was getting to a point where I think people thought it was fake, or they thought it was always going to be me winning, almost like the tonic salesman at a circus or something. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
step right up. So yeah, I know it's a long story, but yeah, that's the background on the Guinness thing. It was a great experience.
That's really cool. Wow.
Thank you.